Hello guys and welcome to my channel. As you know guys, this is one of the video of the series of video that I am doing here on my channel to create a drone right from the scratch for the aerial photography. In this video guys, I am going to do a quick unboxing of this Mateksys F765-WSE flight controller that I am going to use on my drone, and it is loaded with a lot of features and functions. So ensure that guys you watch this video till the end so that you do not miss out on any important information or instructions that I have to share. Before we move further guys, if you are new to my channel and not yet subscribed to my channel, please hit that subscribe button and click that bell notification icon so that you get the notifications for all my new videos. Let's get started. So guys, before we go through some of the technical specifications and features which this flight controller has to offer, let's quickly unbox this flight controller and see the components inside. So whenever you purchase this Mateksys F765-WSE flight controller, it comes in this transparent packaging. I think it is because of the reseller from which I have purchased. So my reseller for this flight controller is Solo Good. So it has repacked this flight controller into this transparent packaging with the logo on the top, and it has some of the barcode information and the model number of the flight controller, which is made by Mateksys. Model number is F765-WSE. This is how you get it. So now let's quickly open this packaging and see the contents inside. As you can see guys, inside the transparent packaging you have the packaging from the Mateksys itself. It comes in this anti-static packaging so as to prevent the flight controller from any static charges during the transport. So now let's quickly open the packaging as well. So this is your flight controller itself. Some of the wire and jumper connection pins, your capacitor for filtering your input power, and this is an extra module that it came along with. We will go through each of these components guys in a second. So now let's quickly open the extra accessory packaging that it came along with. It comes with 3 jumper cable guys, as you can see. I will tell you guys in a minute how it is used. And it comes with some of this JST connector pins, and then there are few more screws spare that it came with. As you can see guys, your flight controller is a stack itself. This does not come with your motor control unit guys or MCU. This is your only flight controller guys, which is also made in 2 stacks. So you can imagine it comes with a lot of features and functions which are inbuilt in this flight controller, which is why it has gave you for this flight controller itself some of the spare screws if you happen to lose some of the screws during the installation. So which is also something really nice. So let's keep that aside. It also comes with this 470 microfarad 35 volt capacitor as well, so as to smoothen your input power supply that you're going to give it to this flight controller. Also guys, this flight controller does not come with the power cable or the cable through which you are going to supply the power. So ensure that guys you have a spare cable, or you can use the cable that comes with your motor control unit or ESC that you can use to power this up. So this is also something that you need to notice. Next thing guys, these jumper cables, as you can see there are 3 JST pins here on the top, which I'm going to explain you guys in a minute. So these are the 3 JST pins that came along with this so as to be able to connect onto these JST connectors. There are 2 of these which are going to connect on the top 2 JST pins, and there is one micro JST 6-pin connector which is there at the bottom of this flight controller top board, which is going to connect it to an additional board which has a buzzer and the USB port to configure this flight controller. So this is how it is being connected. Now guys, let us go through some of the physical specifications that you see and directly notice on this flight controller. As you can see on this flight controller guys, you have a top side port here which is used for installing the SD card, which is being used practically for your Blackbox. It can take up to 32 GB memory card to this flight controller. So practically you will have an unlimited Blackbox storage data for this flight controller guys, which is really awesome, and it is top of the line as of now, non-comparable to any flight controller which is present as of now here in the market. Also guys, it has around 6.5 Uarts, spare Uarts, which you can use to connect it to any other peripherals that you want to connect it to this flight controller. It also has guys support for dual camera, so you can connect 2 cameras at a time, but you can enable only 1 at a time so as to have the video input to your OSD, which is there in this flight controller inbuilt. Also guys, it comes with around 12 motor controls, PWM signal guys. Using this flight controller, you can control up to 12 DC motors or servo motors. So guys, using this flight controller, you can create a really complex model of the drone or any RC flight that you want to make, and has a lot of functions and features that you can control directly right from this flight controller itself, which is also something really nice. Also guys, it comes with around 6 ADC ports, so you have a lot of sensors which uses analog to digital converter for the sensors that you can connect here on this flight controller. Something which is very unique to this flight controller is, apart from having 2 I2C ports, which is also something very unique and specific to this flight controller, which is not present on any other flight controller to have 2 I2C ports, it also has a CAN protocol port, which also works as an I2C, but it is really advanced and really fast, but you need compatible sensors to be able to connect to this I2C port, which is here present on the top. The reason why it has a stack guys, because it has a complex power distribution unit guys, which can support 3.3 volt, 5 volt, 9 volt, 7.5 volt and 12 volt output right from this flight controller. It has all the range of the power supply that you could possibly use for the peripherals that you can connect to this flight controller, which is why guys, you have 2 stack. On the top you have the flight controller and your IO pins. On the bottom stack guys, you have the power distribution channels. In a minute guys, I will open this stack and show you how does it look like. Before that guys, let's quickly see what is there in the extra module that it came with. On the extra module here you can see there is a boot button to boot this flight controller into the bootloader mode and flash the firmware. You have a USB type C, which is version 2 or generation 2 port, which is also something really unique to this flight controller. On this flight controller, it comes with an inbuilt buzzer, which is there on the top with a switch where you can disable and enable the buzzer right from the flight controller board that it comes with. So these are the 3 main components that it comes with. But something important guys, here you don't have to connect this extra board onto your flight controller using the soldering wire. It comes with a 6 jumper pin connector that you can use, which is long enough to connect to this jumper port, which is there on the bottom side of the flight controller top board. As you can see, the length of this cable is really large. You can install this USB port on your drone where it is more accessible, and you can install this flight controller onto your drone body wherever you want, and then you can, using this jumper cable, you can install this extra board that comes with the USB at a place where it is more accessible and not buried inside your drone, and you don't have to ever open your drone so as to be able to access this USB port for flashing any new firmware or changing any parameters. So guys, this is also something really nice which is done by Mateksys for this F765-WSE flight controller, so as to make your life more easier and easily accessible ports, and gives you an option to design your drone in a more convenient way guys. So with this guys, now let us quickly unscrew this flight controller stack and see what is there on the bottom side of this flight controller. So it comes with 4 screws. These screws are not even M.2 screws guys, so be aware you cannot install this flight controller onto any 20mm or 30mm stack, as it has a 25mm length from here to here across the screws, and these screws are not M.2 screws, but I think the holes are big enough to take M.2 screws. This is how it is. Before you buy this flight controller, be sure guys you have a compatible drone frame to take 25mm stack, which is non-standard in this industry guys, because normally you get 20mm stack or 30mm stack to be able to install on your drone frame. So this is also something important guys for your consideration. Now let us quickly remove this. So here on the back side guys, here you can see there are pins which are connector pins that comes out of your power distribution board and to your flight controller board. So this is how you power your flight controller board from your power distribution board. So this is also something important guys for you to notice, as you don't have to do any soldering and there are no wires coming out from your power distribution board to your flight controller board. On your flight controller board, you can see guys, there are a few things which are important. So this is your flight microcontroller itself. I am going to tell you the specifications in a minute. This is your CAN protocol controller chip guys, which is why this flight controller has a CAN protocol supported peripherals that you can connect. This is your onboard barometer. So your flight controller has already got the barometer, so it can have the height sensor already built onto this flight controller. There are other ICs here on the board. I think these are IMUs. This is your IMU, so as to be able to get the sensor data for the orientation and acceleration, which is already all inbuilt on this flight controller. Let me keep this topside stack aside. Here you can see guys, this is your power distribution board. Here, like I told you, these are the connector pins guys that supplies different type of voltages onto your flight controller, which can be accessible through the IO pins which is there on the flight controller. And also guys, you can see here you have a power pad for connecting the ESCs, so external motor control unit. You can power it directly from this flight controller, and then you have a power or battery connection port here guys for battery plus and minus, which you can connect it here. There are some more options here guys to change the voltages of some of the ports that is available on your top side stack of the flight controller. I'm going to tell you guys in a minute when I'm going to go through some of the technical specifications. So this is it guys. This is what you have on the physical specifications of the flight controller. Now let us go through some of the technical specifications and pin diagrams of this Mateksys flight controller F765-WSE. As you can see guys, it comes with the microcontroller unit with model number STM32F765V1H6, which has an operating frequency of 216 MHz. It has an internal RAM of 512 KB and internal flash memory of 2 MB to store the program and your firmware. So here you can see on the right side of the diagram, this is the microcontroller unit which is installed, which we also saw during the unboxing of this flight controller. So you can see here, this is the microcontroller unit. IMU used here is ICM42688P. This is basically your accelerometer and your orientation, your gyros and everything, which is inbuilt in this IMU, which is present here. As you can see, this is your IMU unit here on your flight controller board. Next thing is the barometer, which is DPS310, which is installed on your I2C port internally, and this is here on the right side. You can see this is the barometer which is there on the flight controller. So this layout guys is the inside part of the flight controller, so these are all not visible. So next thing which is there on your flight controller is your on-screen display chip, which is AT7456E. Here you can see this is your on-screen display chip, which is responsible for mixing your video signal with the data, which is your telemetry, your battery voltage and things like that on your video screen itself. So this is your on-screen display chip which is there on your flight controller. So the black box, it does not have any inbuilt memory for the black box, but then I told you guys it has an SD card slot here on the top where you can install a 32 GB SD card for storing the black box data for analysis and your debug. As I told you guys, it comes with 6.5 UARTs. UART 123 RX5 is your half UART, and 678, which is available here on the board for connecting the peripherals as well. So this is also something really nice guys. This is the highest number of UARTs I have ever seen available on any flight controller. So this is really amazing and very unique to this Mateksys F765 flight controller. It comes with a soft serial port for INAV. It has 12 PWM outputs from S1 to S10 ports. So these are basically PWM ports for controlling the speed and direction of your motors. So it comes with 12 motor control that it can support at a time. You can see here S1, S2, S3 to S10, and then you have S11 and S12, which is all your signal for PWM for controlling 12 motors at a time, which I was telling you before guys. This flight controller can be used to create or control a very complex model of the drone or your RC plane that you want to build using this flight controller. It comes with 6 inbuilt ADCs, your analog to digital converters. So it has VBAT, battery voltage sensor and your current sensor, RSSI output, analog airspeed output, and VB2 and CU2 is for voltage and current output signal, which can be used for ADC, which is located outside your flight controller. So here you can see guys, this is RSSI, which is your remote signal strength. This is your VB2 and CU2 for external voltage and current sensor. Here you can see it has VBAT and CURR. This is for your input current and voltage sensor. So these are the current or voltage signal that is coming out of your ESC or your motor control unit that you're going to install. In addition to this flight controller, can have a voltage sensor and current sensor output that is directly coming from your motor control unit can be connected here. And you have an airspeed sensor. So here you can see AirS. This is your airspeed sensor. So this AirS 5 volt and ground, this combination of ARS 5 volt and ground can be used to attach the airspeed sensor. It has 3 LEDs for flight controller status, blue and red, and 3.3 volt indicator in red. Here you can see guys, it has 3.3 volt supply as well, which can directly be powered up whenever you connect your flight controller using USB. Any peripherals which are connected via 3.3 volt can be powered up right away, so that you don't have to connect the battery to this flight controller, but power these kind of peripherals up and configure. It comes with two I2C ports. So here you can see guys, I2C 2 port, DA2 and CA2, and then it has a CL1 and DA1. This is also your I2C port, which is available here on this flight controller. As you can see guys, this is also something very unique to this Mateksys flight controller, as two I2C port, which is not available on any type of flight controller which is available as of now in the market. Second thing you can see here is one CAN protocol supported port. Here you can see this is your CAN protocol supported jumper output. So this is also something very similar to I2C, but this is the serial port that supports CAN protocol. This is a different type of serial communication which is more advanced and more reliable than I2C. As you can see, this is also supported by this flight controller. As you can see, it has an CAN protocol controller chip here available on the back side, which drive this CAN protocol supported serial port. So this serial port is lot faster and lot reliable than I2C protocol, which is also something really nice guys. But you need CAN protocol supported peripherals to connect to this port, and you can connect more than one sensor to the same port, and that can be accessed using the CAN protocol, which is also something really nice. It has a USB and beep extender. Here you can see it is your buzzer, and this is the USB port, which comes as an extra separate board which you can place anywhere on your drone body, which makes your USB Type-C port accessible for configuring this flight controller, which can be connected using this jumper connection, which is available here as you can see on the screen. In addition to that guys, you see here D+, D- and boot. These are also available as a separate pin here on this board. So if your jumper connection does not work, you can use these ports directly to be able to use this functionality directly. It comes with the dual camera support. So here you can see guys, it comes with C1 and C2, 5 volt, 9 volt, ground and ground to connect two different cameras at the same time here on this flight controller. As I told you before guys, you can only use one camera at a time, but you can switch between those two cameras using your flight controller itself internally using the remote control which is connected here on this flight controller. It has a 9 volt output for Vtx Power Switch. So here you can see it has a 9V SW. It has a dual power supply capability, which you can configure right here on the power distribution board. It can output either a 9 volt supply or a 12 volt supply for your external video transmitter, which is also something really nice guys. So here you can see it has a video output. It has a 9 volt for VTX and the ground. All these three pins are logically located together very near to the cameras, so that you can power your VTX and also gives the output video signal which is coming out from OSD to your video transmitter, which can be transmitted then to your goggles or your video receiver. It comes with an high precision current sense of 220 ampere, so it is really capable of taking input up to 220 ampere. It has an ADC VB2 voltage divider 1K and 20K, airspeed voltage divider 20K by 20K, and a static power output from 5 volt around 160 milliampere. So these are the technical specifications, guys, of this flight controller. Let's go through some more technical specification of the power distribution board that it comes along with. So here you can see, guys, this is the lower board that you saw when we unassembled this flight controller stack. Here you can see it has a battery minus and battery plus, where you connect your battery, which can take from 6.8 to 30 volt. So this flight controller supports from 2S to 6S voltage, 1 ESC power pads. So this is your ESC plus and ESC minus. This goes as a power output to your motor control unit, which can be powered directly from the output of this flight controller, which is also something really nice. It has a battery voltage divider for 1K and 20K with a scale of 2100 in INAV, battery volt, multi-volt 21.0 in ArduPilot. So this is how you configure your battery voltage divider, and you have a current sensor of 220 ampere. So guys, here you can see it has a current sensor support of 220 ampere peak and 90 ampere continuous with 3.3 volt ADC, scale 150 in INAV, 66.7 AV in ArduPilot. So this is how you configure or put the range of your current sensor and configure in INAV and ArduPilot. It has a BEC 5 volt voltage designed for flight controller, receiver, OSD camera, buzzer, LED strips, GPS module and airspeed module, which you can connect it to the flight controller as well. It has a continuous current support for 2 ampere and maximum of 3 ampere, which can be output from this 5 volt ports which are available on the flight controller. In BEC 912 volt, here you can see this is 9 to 10 volt BEC, which I told you guys, which is used to connect your Vtx power supply. You can bump it up using connecting this jumper from 9 volt to 12 volt depending upon the voltage rating of your Vtx. For stable voltage of 9 volt to 12 volt, your battery power should be at least 10 volt to 13 volt, which is 1 volt above stable power supply that you want this port to out. Your BCVX output, these are your voltage output for the servos or the motors that you want to power it up right from your flight controller, which can output a stable voltage of 5 volts, 6 volt or 7.2 volts depending upon the jumper connection which is available here. On the right you can see 7.2 volt, 6 volt, or by default it is 5 volt. It can support a continuous current of 8 ampere and maximum current of 10 ampere from each port, which is also something really appreciable and amazing, guys, specific to this flight controller. For stable connection, like before, your battery voltage should be more than the voltage which you are using here to supply. So at least 8 to 9 volt supply has to be there on the battery so as to be able to support this 7.2 volt maximum voltage output. BEC 3.3 volt is barometer and compass that you can uses this external 3.3 volt output. As I told you guys, this can be powered directly from the USB port. Whenever you plug in the USB for configuring this flight controller, it can support a maximum output current of 200 milliampere. So this is also something really amazing, guys. So these are the power specification of the power distribution board that came with Mateksys flight controller F765-WSE. So as you saw, guys, this flight controller F765-WSE from Mateksys comes with a lot of features, lot of Uarts, lot of functions which is inbuilt right here on this small form factor flight controller. So I really highly recommend to buy this Mateksys flight controller and use in your projects for your drone, as it has a lot of capability which possibly is more than enough for any RC pilot. So this is it, guys. This is a detailed review and overview of the functions and technical specification of this Mateksys flight controller F765-WSE. I hope you guys like this video. If you guys like this video, please do not forget to hit that like button. If you have any questions or comment, please leave them in the comment section below. I will try and answer as soon as possible. If you are new to my channel and not yet subscribed to my channel, please hit that subscribe button and click that bell notification icon so that you get the notifications for all my new videos. Thank you, guys. Thanks for watching, and clear skies.